For the last 30 years, every high school student in America was told the exact same foundational lie. Your guidance counselors told you, your teachers told you, your parents told you. The entire culture repeated it like a sacred religious scripture. If you want to achieve the American dream, you have to go to college. It didn't matter what you studied, it didn't matter which school you chose, and most importantly, it didn't matter how much it cost. You were told to sign your name on the dotted line, take out as many federal student loans as necessary, and not worry about the price tag because your future high paying salary would effortlessly take care of it. Today, that promise has officially shattered into pieces. Over 43 million Americans are currently trapped inside a collective $1.77 trillion debt prison. What was originally sold as an investment in human potential has morphed into the most predatory, mathematically inescapable wealth extraction scheme in modern American history. But the most sinister part of this entire economic crisis isn't just the sheer scale of the balance, it is the elaborate, deceptive political theater known as student loan forgiveness. For the last several election cycles, Washington politicians have marched across television screens promising that salvation was just around the corner. They promised universal cancellation. They promised streamlined debt relief. They promised executive orders that would wipe the slate clean with the stroke of a pen. Yet year after year, the debt continues to compound, the interest continues to snowball, and the average borrower remains completely trapped. The forgiveness was never designed to save you. It was designed to keep you pacified while the federal lending machine continues to extract trillions of dollars from the working class. To understand why this trap is so deadly, you have to look at the unique legal architecture that makes student loans different from every single other form of debt in the United States. If you start a risky business and it goes completely bankrupt, you can file Chapter 7 bankruptcy, wipe away millions of dollars in corporate debt, and walk away clean. If you buy a $500,000 home you cannot afford, the bank can foreclose on the property, but your personal liability is extinguished. If you run up a massive credit card bill or default on a luxury sports car, standard consumer bankruptcy laws protect you from lifelong servitude. Student loans are the sole, terrifying exception. In 2005, the United States Congress passed the Bankruptcy Abuse Prevention and Consumer Protection Act, quietly stripping student loan borrowers of the right to discharge their debt in bankruptcy court. Under federal law, your student loans are legally classified alongside child support payments and criminal court fines. They are non-dischargeable. Even if you lose your job, become physically disabled, or file for personal bankruptcy, the debt stays with you until the day you die. The federal government possesses extraordinary powers to collect on that debt that no private company on earth has. They can garnish your paycheck without a court order, seize your federal tax refunds, and even intercept your Social Security retirement checks when you turn 65. Once you understand that borrowers have zero legal exit, you begin to see why colleges and universities went on a spending spree that defied all economic gravity. In standard economics, when a product becomes too expensive, consumers stop buying it, forcing institutions to lower their prices. But when the federal government stepped in and guaranteed an unlimited, bottomless pipeline of loans to any 18-year-old with a pulse, price discovery completely evaporated. Universities realized they could hike tuition by 5, 8, or 10% every single year, and students would have no choice but to borrow the difference. Over the last 4 decades, the cost of college tuition in the United States skyrocketed by more than 1,200%. That is a rate of inflation that outpacing healthcare, housing, and general consumer goods by a massive margin. Colleges didn't use this tidal wave of cash to lower class sizes or increase educational rigor. They built luxury dorms, multi-million-dollar lazy rivers, state-of-the-art recreation centers, and created armies of redundant administrative staff earning six-figure salaries. They transformed universities from modest institutions of learning into corporate real estate empires funded entirely by the future wages of teenagers. When these graduates finally leave campus with a diploma in hand, they are thrown directly into the jaws of the most brutal mathematical machine ever invented: negative amortization and interest capitalization. This is the exact mechanism that turns a standard loan into a lifelong prison sentence. Consider an average borrower who takes out $40,000 in federal loans at a 6% interest rate. When they enter the workforce and struggle to find a job that pays enough to cover rent and groceries, they are advised to enroll in an income driven repayment plan or apply for an administrative forbearance. Under these government programs, the required monthly payment is set low, often around $100 or $200 a month. The borrower feels a sense of relief, faithfully making their required payment every 30 days for 5, 10, or 15 years. But behind the scenes, that $100 payment isn't even large enough to cover the monthly interest accumulating on the balance. Every single dollar of unpaid interest is tacked onto the original principal loan balance. Then, the next month, the government charges interest on top of that unpaid interest. After a full decade of never missing a single payment and sending tens of thousands of dollars to their loan servicer, the borrower logs into their account only to discover that their original $40,000 balance has ballooned to $55,000. They have paid thousands of dollars in hard earned cash, yet they owe significantly more money than the day they graduated. This is how millions of Americans end up paying $50,000 on a $30,000 loan and still owe $40,000. It is mathematically impossible to climb out of a hole when the dirt keeps collapsing back on top of you. To prevent widespread public revolt, the government rolled out the holy grail of forgiveness, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Enacted under the promise that if you work 10 years in a nonprofit, teaching, or government job and made 120 qualifying monthly payments, your remaining balance would be forgiven tax-free. For over a decade, millions of nurses, teachers, social workers, and civil servants accepted below-market salaries because they trusted that the federal government would honor its promise. When the first major wave of borrowers became eligible for forgiveness in late 2017, the shocking truth was laid bare. The Department of Education revealed that out of tens of thousands of applicants, an astonishing 99% of all forgiveness applications were outright rejected. The private loan servicing companies handling the portfolios, contracted by the Department of Education, had deliberately misled borrowers for years. They placed people into the wrong repayment plans, failed to count qualifying payments, lost administrative records, and buried borrowers in bureaucratic red tape. The promise of relief was an illusion. The corporate loan servicers made money by keeping borrowers in debt, not by letting them go. When political pressure reached a boiling point, the White House announced broad headline-grabbing executive actions promising blanket debt cancellation of $10,000 to $20,000. For months, news networks ran breathless coverage, celebrating the end of the crisis. But anyone who understood the legal reality knew the truth. These unilateral executive promises were deliberately designed to score short-term political points before being challenged in federal court and struck down by the Supreme Court. The forgiveness was used as a recurring political football, dangling hope in front of vulnerable families to secure votes, while the structural roots of the crisis remained completely untouched. Even under the newer income-driven plans that promise eventual balance forgiveness after 20 or 25 years, a hidden financial bomb awaits. Under current federal tax laws, any debt forgiven through these long-term programs is classified as taxable income by the Internal Revenue Service. If a borrower has $60,000 of compounding debt forgiven after 20 years, the IRS treats that borrower as if they earned an extra $60,000 of cash income that year. The borrower suddenly receives a massive 5-figure tax bill that they must pay immediately, trading a student loan debt for an aggressive IRS tax lien. The consequences of this $1.77 trillion anchor are dismantling the economic foundations of the American middle class. The traditional milestones of adulthood have been indefinitely delayed or completely destroyed. An entire generation has been forced to put off buying a first home, getting married, having children, or saving for retirement because a significant portion of their monthly paycheck is automatically siphoned away to service student debt. When an entire generation is barred from building equity in real estate and participating in the compounding growth of standard index funds, generational wealth creation grinds to a complete halt. We have created a two-tiered society where the children of the wealthy start life with a massive financial head start, while working-class students start their adult lives with a 20-year financial handicap. The harsh reality of the student loan system is that nobody in power has an incentive to fix it. Wall Street profits from packaging and trading student loan asset-backed securities. Private loan servicers collect hundreds of millions of dollars in federal management fees. Universities continue to cash guaranteed federal tuition checks while avoiding any financial accountability for poor job placement. And politicians continue to weaponize the promise of forgiveness every single election cycle to keep voters engaged. The golden promise of higher education was hijacked by a predatory lending apparatus that turned young ambition into corporate cash flow. If you want to survive this machine, you have to stop waiting for Washington to save you with a legislative miracle. You have to understand the brutal mathematics of interest capitalization, audit your loan terms aggressively, and formulate a ruthless personal strategy to take back your future. If you want the unvarnished, data-backed financial reality that corporate media refuses to broadcast, hit subscribe. Because in an economy built on hidden financial traps, understanding the math is your only real defense.